How can you tell when someone is lying? The uncomfortable truth is this: there is no single gesture, expression, or phrase that proves someone is lying. If there were, deception would have disappeared long ago. Humans lie constantly to protect themselves, to protect others, to avoid conflict, to gain advantage, or simply to maintain an image. Because lying is so common, the human brain has become very good at disguising it. But while lies are hard to detect individually, patterns never lie. The key to recognizing deception is not watching for one signal, but noticing inconsistencies, small breaks in rhythm, logic, and emotional alignment. When people tell the truth, their story flows naturally. They don't need to manage it. When people lie, they are doing two things at once: creating a version of events and monitoring how it is being received. That mental split creates strain, and strain always leaks. One of the first places it leaks is in timing. Truth tends to come out quickly. Lies take longer. A liar often pauses before answering, not because they are thinking deeply, but because they are constructing. The brain is searching for something plausible, safe, and consistent with what has already been said. That pause, especially when the question is simple, is not thoughtfulness, it's calculation. Another signal is over-control. When someone is lying, they often try too hard to appear calm, honest, or convincing. Their tone may sound rehearsed. Their gestures may seem limited or overly controlled. They might over-explain details no one asked for, trying to sell the story rather than simply tell it. Truth rarely needs decoration. Language also shifts. Liars tend to distance themselves from the lie. They use fewer first-person pronouns, I, me, my, and replace them with passive language or vague references. Instead of saying, I forgot, they say, it was forgotten. This creates psychological distance from responsibility. Another sign is inconsistency in emotional tone. The words may express concern, but the emotion doesn't match, or the emotion appears too strong for the situation. Overacting and underreacting can both signal discomfort. The body often reacts before the mind can control it. Microexpressions, changes in breathing, subtle tension in the face or shoulders. But the most reliable indicator is not a behavior. It's a pattern over time. People who lie regularly contradict themselves in small ways. Details shift, timelines change, explanations evolve. Not dramatically, just enough that something feels off. Most people sense this instinctively, but ignore it because confronting it is uncomfortable. It's important to understand that lying is not always malicious. Many lies are defensive. People lie to avoid shame, conflict, punishment, or rejection. They lie to protect relationships, reputations, or their own self-image. In fact, the more someone fears consequences, the more likely they are to lie, even when telling the truth would be easier in the long run. That's why interrogation-style thinking often fails in real life. Aggressive confrontation makes people hide more, not less. If you want truth, safety matters. People are more honest when they feel they won't be destroyed for it. Another overlooked sign of deception is cognitive overload. Lying takes mental energy. When someone is lying, they may struggle with multitasking, lose track of the conversation, or show delayed responses when asked unexpected follow-up questions. Truth flows. Lies require maintenance. Yet the most important insight is this: humans are not as good at detecting lies as they believe. Confidence, charm, and authority often fool us. We mistake calmness for honesty and nervousness for guilt. In reality, nervous people can be telling the truth, and confident liars can sound completely convincing. This is why intuition alone is unreliable. Gut feelings are influenced by bias, past experiences, and emotions. They can point you toward something being off, but they are not evidence on their own. The real skill is noticing patterns without jumping to conclusions. Recognizing deception is less about catching someone and more about understanding human behavior. It requires patience, curiosity, and emotional control. The goal is not to expose others, but to see situations more clearly, to separate what is said from what is actually happening. And perhaps the most difficult truth, we all lie, sometimes to others, often to ourselves. We lie about what we want, what we fear, and what we are willing to accept. The same mechanisms we use to detect dishonesty in others are the ones we avoid using on ourselves. Understanding deception, then, is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It is about becoming more aware of patterns, of inconsistencies, and of the quiet signals that tell us when something doesn't align. Because the most important lies to recognize are not always spoken out loud.